then there was football. Yeah, it's been a while, guys. I'm so excited. I'm sure you guys have seen the game design reveal that got dropped today by Goals. It's where we finally can be able to share everything that we have in mind, that we have planned, that we've been working on. I understand it can be a little bit too much here because it's quite a lot of information to take in, but that's where I come in. I'm gonna try and go through everything, but I'm sure I'll end up missing some stuff. The most important thing to say here is that everything here is subject to change. The reason that we want to share this so soon with you guys is, well, unlike other games, they end up always leaving it too late. This is the time where you guys can have a proper say on the game. So I'll link the links in the description where you guys can come join our Discord and have your say. But without further ado, there's quite a lot to go through. Introduction, I'll leave you guys to read that. Gameplay, let's begin with this. The most important thing to give you an idea of what Goals are doing when it comes to gameplay is a particular sentence right here. We are creating a proper football game, but where there is a need, the gameplay experience will be prioritized over realism. What does this mean? What do we mean by this? It means that Goals will stay true to the sport of football as much as possible. We're not going to have anything that's done in Goals will be able to be done by a real human being. So not going to be any speed boost. There's not going to be any players flying in the air. You don't have to worry about that. But this right here means that where there is a need, we will bend the rules in order to make the best football video game, because that is our mission, making the best football video game. And in order to do that, this has to happen at times. What do we mean by this? Less animations, but better ones. We've seen what happens in other football games when you flood the game with you think you're making more realistic, but that ends up really lowering the standards of the game. A quicker game, we're trying to fit a 90-minute real life game into a 12-minute one. We will have less assisted AI. We're not going to have the AI holding your hands at all times. Forget about that. And also, we'll have to check on this exactly. But if it was down to me, there's not going to be any park the bus. Again, I know it is a real viable tactic, but I don't want to be facing that every single game. We are trying to create the best and most enjoyable football video game. So where possible, we are willing to bend the rules in order to achieve that. Game modes, this sentence pretty much sums it up very well. We aim to find a good balance between fun, engaging, competitive, and rewarding. Rewarding is the most important thing. Every single game mode has to feel like it is rewarding. Sometimes these two end up contradicting each other, or I should say these end up contradicting each other, but make no mistake about it, these two are just as fun as these two, and we'll do our very best to achieve that. Some game modes, I'm sure, may end up being deemed more competitive than fun, but we will do our best to have a balance of all of this. We'll have a variety ranging from 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 5v5, etc. We'll announce more details on that when we get to it. Esports, roughly, the game is going to be esports ready. Therefore, esports, in the sense that the game will have the highest possible skill gap. Therefore, esports is, of course, a big part of what we want to do naturally. Onto the game structure, the idea here is pretty simple. You get to create your own club and then you get to manage it. You can have your own players, cosmetics, stadiums, create your own highlights, celebrations, trophies, achievements, you name it. We'll go into a lot more detail in this in the future, I'm sure, maybe even a little bit today, but that's the general idea. You can also create your own team or a clan, or join a clan, create a clan. The idea here is that you'll be able to share your assets with your friends, be it players, items, whatever, and yeah, pretty much take on the goals world. Important to note actually that if your team were to become successful, you can also become a verified franchise, and you'll have a few additional perks such as the ability to have your own fans and a lot more stuff. Apologies, I'm going through this a little bit quickly, by the way, but we do have a lot of stuff that we need to go through. National teams, yeah, this is exciting. The idea here is that we'll have the official national federations in goals that will be able to fight for who's the best nation in goals. They'll have their own tournaments, select the best players from each country to represent them. And also a national team would not need to buy any players because they'll have access to all the players in the game. The fair play switch, this is something we'll get into a lot more later because this is important. And yeah, of course, rewards are very important in goals. You'll be able to earn reward points, we call them RPs, which you can then spend on specific or rewards of your choice, such as players, cosmetic celebrations. You'll also be able to earn all of these in packages or packs, whatever. On to the most exciting part, players. Goals will be using unique, one-of-a-kind players. What does that mean? It means that every single player in goals will be just that, one of a kind. What does it also mean? It means goals will not be using real players. I know that could be a bit of a shock to a few people. You know, in big traditional football games, this has not been done before. But it's good to explain our logic and our reasoning on why we're not going to be using real players. This is a choice. We believe this system is simply better to create the most enjoyable user experience. Simple as that. I guess we can go through and be as transparent as we can. If we're going to use real players, as you guys know, we have to have a cycle, correct? Whether that cycle is 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, but we have to have a cycle. The reason we have to have a cycle is because if you don't, then what happens when you get a decent team or a good team? Then, right? A cycle means that you lose everything after a year or two, whatever, and then you have to start from scratch. And then we have two options. Either we make it easy for you guys to get the best players and goals, which, well, in turn pretty much destroys the game's longevity, or we make it go the opposite way, make it harder, but that can equally create a frustrating experience. And listen, using and facing the same players over and over and over and over again, that time has to come to an end. It's going to take some time for this to sink in. I understand in traditional football games, playing with real players is obviously the main selling point. But you can this way build a better bond, have more relatability with your unique one-of-a-kind player. Only you will have that player. That's it. And that's at the end of the day what football is all about. You know, not just go find an easy to go, oh, I'll just buy Ronaldo, I'll just buy Messi, I'll just buy Mbappe. That's pretty easy. Develop your own players. Now we're talking. Now that excites me. You know, so because at the end of the day, listen, we can't make a Harry Kane better than Mbappe. Whatever people think, we can make Harry Kane more usable, but at the end of the day, the qualities that Harry Kane lacks, that Mbappe has, are just too important compared to the ones that Mbappe lacks that Kane doesn't. As simple as that. And also with everything that we've pretty much mentioned. So, how will a player look like in goals? We'll go through pretty much the 7 main attributes: speed, pace, shooting, passing, physicality, goalkeeping, defending, and dribbling. There's 7 in total. We're using a 1 to 99, and we're gonna have the DNA system. Of course, we understand how important it is to still have that relatability to the real football players, and that's where this comes in. So, roughly, the DNA is divided into the performance genes and into the visual genes. The performance genes is what will make up the 7 attributes, as well as the stats, which are the in-game stats. So for dribbling, we say have these in-game stats. And we have AR number 10 2013 with a Dutch flag. Do you guys know who that is? Surely you've guessed it by now, nah? The idea here is that you can get a player that's, let's say, inspired by have Mbappe's pace, have Harry Kane shooting, have Messi's dribbling, until you fill all 7. Potentially Van Dijk's defending. What a player that is. I'm already excited. Equally, you could have Ronaldo shooting. You could have Neymar's dribbling. You could have, oh, what a crazy player. You could have Maguire's pace. There's also the visual genes. The visual genes are the other component that make up a player. You will not be able to change these. Okay, you can apply cosmetics to your player, but you cannot change the base look of a player. We'll have the aging system. This excites me very much. The aging system, so essentially your players will age in goals. Let's say a rough estimation, we still have to run quite a lot of simulations, so the numbers are subject to change. But let's say 1 real life week or 2 real life weeks, sorry, equals 1 year. Let's use that as a rough estimation. The reason we have to have an aging system is very simple. It's to secure the game's longevity. Also, it is a lot more fun instead of that way you'll just keep using the same players over and over and over. In real football, let's use Sir Alex Ferguson as an example. One of his best qualities was that, amongst many others, was that he was able to create or go through cycles, create different teams. And that's the challenge you're going to face in goals. Players will spawn in, let's say, between the ages of 18 to 25, and they will retire between the ages of, say, 32 or 34, whatever, till 38. Again, numbers are subject to change. Legends. What happens when a player retires? Oh yeah, important to mention that just because a player is aging in goals doesn't mean that he start losing his pace or his speed out of nowhere. That won't be the case. Legends, when a player retire, they become a legend. Legend means that you will still be able to keep using your player, but not in all the official game modes, or rather will add, let's say, a restriction of 1 to 3 maximum legends in all the official game modes. You can still have a team full of legends that you can use in other game modes, but like I mentioned earlier, in order to keep having that variety, you know, we'll have the aging system so you can keep changing and going through cycles and going through teams. But this also allowing you to keep using, let's say, between 1 to 3 legends in your team also pretty much maintains the value of your players. That way you can still keep using the best player in your club throughout all the game modes. Training camps, aka a progression system. The one, and to me this is the most exciting part of all of this, because the one thing we can do with unique players that you can't do with real players is we can have a progression system. You can get to see your players evolve. Now, this also comes with its own challenges, so it may sound a little bit confusing now as I explain it, but trust me, visually, when you start seeing videos and you play, it'll become a lot easier. The main challenge here is how do we approach this? We can tie it to the gameplay. That's maybe the first thought, right? How many goals you score with your players, how your player performs, and then the player gets better and better. We decided to go against that. The reason being is that way, number one, someone like myself, mind the arrogance, ends up always developing the best players compared to maybe someone that's not that good. Is that fair? I'm gonna have more than enough advantages, someone like myself, with earning players. Do we need any more? I feel like we want to give the chance for everybody to be able to develop the best player in goals. Imagine that, having the best player in goals. There's only gonna be one. So, and also, the reason to go against that is potential manipulation. You know, someone can go in a game with his friends, score 5 goals, whatever, or even message, you know, or his opponent or her opponent, and pretty much manipulate games, which is the danger, pretty much. So how will training camps work? There's a little, well, quite a lot of detail, but just to roughly explain, let's use this here, inspired by Arjen Robben, if you haven't figured that out. He's got the in-game stats here, a multiplier 1 to 10, which are here, and this, when we say multiplier, gets multiplied by how the player performed in a training camp. So let's say the training result today was 50 XP. Each single in-game stat gets multiplied by 50, and the result is there as follows. A training camp, actually let me find an image, one sec, this will explain it better. Here's the image, but I also forgot to mention that every single player will spawn into the game with a fixed amount of training points. These training points, you cannot buy them, you cannot sell them, they are attached to the player. You use these training points to then enter training camps. Training camps are hosted by trainers. This is a very, very, very rough example of what or how a trainer in goals can look like. So as you can see here, we've got the 7 main attributes, and you can see a little bit of arrows here. Here comes the twist. You see these red ones here. You think it was just going to be easy? You think you're just going to send your player to training camp and the player just gets better and better? Oh, no, not necessarily. You see, a player can also hit a red arrow. What does a red arrow mean? Or red XP? Well, that means your player is going to decline. So you see, you better be careful here. Some trainers, of course, some training camps will cost more training points if they are better. But this is where it becomes a strategy element, gets added. As you can see here, right? I look at this as an example and I'm like, okay, so the pace, there should be more of a chance of me hitting good here. My players should do good in pace, but there's also a risk. In shooting, I'm safe. The player's gonna do okay. Nothing crazy, but he's gonna do or perform okay. Passing, same thing, there's a bit of a risk, but there's also big upside to the passing here. I can hit a lot of XP. Dribbling, not much here. Defending, we already know what's gonna happen there. That's easy. My player will improve a little bit in defending. Physical, oh, it's a big risk here. Also some potential upside. And then the goalkeeper, no, my player is going to do well here. So just to give you a rough idea, you know, it's not going to be a smooth sailing. There will be some RNG to it, but this is what we've decided for now. Please feel free to let us know your thoughts. Player exchange tasks. Some of you guys may be familiar with this, but the main gist here is that you can exchange a set number of items or players in exchange for a better player or better item. Now let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? True digital ownership. NFTs, the word that sends shivers down people's spine. I get it, I understand. There is no denying in other projects they have been used very, very wrongly. But you have to understand that these are a technology. A technology is ultimately how you use it. It can't be good or bad. It literally ends up how you use it. And we're going to be very, very open about all of this. So simple. In our game, you can earn items, players, cosmetics, whatever, for free. There's not going to be any drops. There's not going to be none of this. Whatever you earn by playing the game for free, you can then, if you want, if you desire, choose to sell them. If you don't, not a problem. You don't have to get involved, not a problem. But to me, someone who's played a lot of other games, something that I've never understood is the fact that if you put so much time and effort into the game, and at the end, you just never have anything to show for it. I always found that ridiculous and very old-fashioned. This solves it. Now, Kurt, you say, if I list a player up and someone else buys that player, isn't that pay to win? You may say. Sure, there's no beating around the bush. 100% there's an element of pay to win there, of course. The main thing to understand here is that we are doing this primarily also for to enhance the play and own. It's not a pay to win in the traditional sense of you list or you buy whatever items from us that we offer, we make 100% of the revenue. No, you list a player up, and let's say Baton buys your player, we will take a very small percentage. That's how goals will make money. We're going to be open, but the vast majority goes to you. So in a way, it's a peer-to-peer transaction, right? Ultimately, the users are the ones that are going to benefit the most from it. That's what it means, owning your assets. But yes, there's an element of pay to win. Now, in order to counteract this, this is where the matchmaking switch comes in, so to speak. So if you do not want to come up against the Batons, as an example, then you're going to have a switch, the top left, top right, whatever, bottom left, bottom right corner, which you can activate. And that means that you will not come up against any teams containing market players. That means players that got bought off the market. You will only come up against players that are first owner. And I also want to mention, trust me, when I say this is being primarily done to enhance the user's experience. And I'm not saying Goals isn't going to make money off it. Of course, I already told you Goals will be making a very small percentage off of each transaction. But if Goals cared about making the most money, why go through all of this? Do what the other football games are doing. Add in microtransactions. Easy. We will tell you guys you have a 0.0000001% chance of getting a very good player in Goals. And that way you pay us, we take 100% of the revenue. Very simple. And then you can keep spending money and gambling the money away, not knowing what you're going to get. That would be the easy way. So try and be open-minded on this. I understand the concerns you have. I completely get that. When everything is running, you can see that the intentions are very much sincere, and this again is being done to enhance the user experience. But yeah, that's pretty much it on me. Apologies, I tried to keep it as short as possible. I'll link the article, of course, in the description, as well as the Goals Discord. Please come and share your opinions on this. Again, nothing is done, like I said. Nothing here is set in stone. This is the chance you have to have a say on the future of virtual football gaming. It's been a pleasure. Catch you guys next time. Peace.